Oh, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
How'd you guys celebrate?
We went to an art gallery and went out to dinner and then came home and went to bed kind of early. It was nice.
Well, congratulations, and congratulations on your album going to #2 as well.
Thank
Thank you.
I kind of wanted to go through your story as told through the songs, and I was kind of going to go chronologically, but I saw your Instagram today where you had like the notes for Best Friend, because that's also celebrating an anniversary, a 1-year anniversary. So I guess I would start with that, and what that song seems to be about, probably when you guys were in high school or like around 17, right? But what is that song about?
Yeah, so that song is about the time when we had just finished high school and we were hanging out like all the time, like every day. And Sam had just gotten accepted into a dance school on the other side of town, and it was going to be like a very much full-time thing. And it would have meant that like I wouldn't have really seen him that much anymore. And I think that pretty much you like didn't go so that we could still hang out every day.
Yeah.
Really?
I had also around that time quit at least one, if not two jobs that were just like casual, nothing jobs, just to hang out as well. So the pull was strong, as strong as it is now still.
But were you dating yet, or were you still just in the friend zone at that time?
It was kind of like
an in-between.
Yeah, in between.
So actually, since I was not, these aren't chronologically in time in terms of when you released them, but in terms of the story they tell, since you brought that up, Sam, Party Pill, it actually has that line in it.
Yeah.
That's love right there. So I'm curious about that song, because if it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, when you guys first came out as a couple, you didn't tell that part of the story, that like you talked about how you'd fall in love gradually, how you'd been friends, and then it like blossomed or whatever, but you didn't really. Party Pill, if it's my understanding, is a song where you actually like told the whole story. And am I right in that?
Yeah, that's right.
So what made you want to put out that song then? And let's talk a little bit about what that song is about.
I think that when we first came out, I just felt really embarrassed about like living so much of my life in secret. And I felt kind of guilty for lying to so many people in my life. And then I think that by the time I wrote Party Pill about that time and we like put it out, I was kind of getting to a stage where I realized like I shouldn't be ashamed of our story and like the way that it unfolded, and that it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of more of a reflection on the environment that I was in and the fact that I felt like I had to hide, rather than it being like a bad thing that I did, like lying to people. Like it was kind of something that I did to protect myself. And I think that there are a lot more people that like go through that experience than is really spoken about. And I feel like, I know it was such a magical time in our lives, and I felt like it needed to be celebrated and shared. And that was kind of the process behind, I guess, getting to a point where I was proud of that part of our story and ready to share it.
So tell me a little bit about, I was trying to figure out, there's a word that's beeped out in that song, and I think it's actually the word shame, isn't it? I assumed it was, like a profanity word or whatever. So what's the symbolism, the significance of censoring that word?
I feel like we're kind of, I don't know, I feel like having shame is like sometimes even like thought of as shameful. And I don't know, there was something about it that I felt like when I was writing it, I just like, I don't know, it maybe was even like another way to like protect myself from like fully like putting it all out there, even though you can like tell what the word is kind of. But yeah, I think I still at that point of writing and recording it still felt a bit uncomfortable, I guess, about like talking about like the fact that I had so much shame that that it took like everything that I had away from me, basically.
So if you don't mind going into, obviously the song is pretty literal from what I can see. It's pretty literal, linear narrative. But can you tell me about, like, how long did you guys date at that time, and why did it end at that time exactly?
We dated for
A year?
yeah.
A year and a little bit.
It's a long time, especially at that age.
Basically from the end of high school, and then we both worked for a year and kind of like saved money to go on this trip to Europe. And we did that, and then it was kind of like at the end of that trip we were about to like go to university, and it felt like we were starting to like get our like real lives on track or whatever, and we kind of made a decision that it would be easier and better if we kind of just continued as friends and like tried to get girlfriends and like lead the path that it felt like people wanted us to.
So how soon after that was the band already going then, or how soon after that did the band go on?
Yeah, the band started kind of just after, kind of in the couple of years after we started trying to be just friends. And then it was it went on for years, like that sort of in between of like still secretly being in love, but kind of like running away from it in a lot of ways as well.
So I understand that, if you could explain to me, like, what was the significance? You played Party Pill at your wedding. I've done a lot of research. I have my notes, obviously. I do my research for my interviews. But that played at some part of your wedding, right? Which I think must have been, I mean, what a watershed moment that must have been.
It was while we signed our registry, just after the vows.
Wow, that's so cool. So, I mean, it must have been torturous, I would think, to be in a band together, because people in bands, regardless of what's going on, I mean, you're kind of like, it's kind of like a marriage in the band. It's kind of like four people always together, always touring together. Like, that must have taken a lot of like compartmentalization in the brain, I would think.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of had a lot of practice at doing that. I think growing up queer in an environment where you can't really express that, you get pretty good at pretending to be someone or something that you're not, and it kind of becomes second nature, like learning to respond and answer to things in like the way that is going to harm you the least or embarrass you the least or whatever. So it was definitely like weird and sad and like hard and confusing, like all of those things. But it was kind of like, it kind of felt like it had been like that for a while.
And we also lived together. We did everything together. We basically shared money. Like we did everything together. We were like the best of friends that you could possibly be. And we didn't have other relationships through that time.
Wow.
It was kind of like, it was like a true in-between state of being.
Did people suspect or assume, like, maybe I would think some people might have even just assumed, because that kind of closeness?
When we came out, we had a few friends say that they just assumed we would do it when we were 40 or something. But yeah, I don't know how many people, suspected it. I actually don't know.
I think a fair few probably would have, but I feel like in those sort of conservative circles, I think that the denial extends beyond the individual. Like, I think that, like, I haven't really asked my family. I think that they probably suspected that I might have been gay, but there's so much denial and like wanting for like something else that I think that you can kind of convince yourself. And I feel like that might have been happening a little bit too.
Did you have fans that were like shipping you? I bet you had fans that were like stoked when you guys came, because they were probably already shipping it.
Yeah.
We didn't really have very many fans at that point in time. I remember like a couple of weeks after we came out, we supported the 1975 on their Australian tour. And that was kind of the first time that we had like a big influx of fans, and like suddenly a bunch of people knew who we were. And those were the first shows that we had played on the other side of coming out as well. And so that felt like a really big moment, like personally and professionally. But I remember when the 1975 stands were like starting to get into us, and they started to suspect that we were together. And then when we confirmed, like, yeah, we are together, I remember they were very excited, because I think that so much of stan culture is about like shipping. Like, I know that One Direction fans, there was like always so much about Harry and Louis, and it's like with pub sport, like it's real.
Yeah.
There's probably some fan fiction out there that maybe you don't know about. I would not be surprised.
We have been told that there is some. We tried to find it and we couldn't, we didn't succeed.
I don't think I want to see it.
Well, the real story is how can you really top the real story? But Sam, I wanted to ask you, because obviously we'll get to the story of when you sort of had the conversation, but I imagine there were like some songs from the first album, because like now that I listened to the first album, knowing what I know, it's like there's some songs like Come On Mess Me Up, for instance, that seem like kind of obvious. Were there any signals that were being sent?
It was, I think, during the first album, because most of that was written in sort of 2014, and then there was some delays getting it out that sort of put it back about 18 months. So at the time that the first album was being written, I was definitely not in a place to be receiving any hints, or even if I thought something might be about me, I don't think I would have believed it. It was more around the second album writing, like when Tim was showing me these demos and stuff, that I started to get a hint that the way I was feeling might be reciprocated.
Any songs in particular?
Chasin was probably the one that stands out to me the most in my memory.
And tell me about that song, Tim. That's the one you wrote like while you were away or something, right? Or you were out of the country or something.
Yeah, I went on a writing trip in the middle of 2015, and I think I was away for about a month, like in just spending time in LA and London, and then a little bit of time in Berlin. And it was kind of throughout those weeks of spending time by myself, when I was used to being with Sam every day, and I really started to become aware of like how much I missed him, and how much I like needed him to be a part of my life. And when I got back from that trip, I wrote Chasin, kind of about the experiences that I had while I was away. And yeah, I think that was a bit of a telltale sign.
There were also demos that never made it past that stage, that had a few more things in them that I remember.
There was like a line in a song that never got released that was like, "What if I died tomorrow and I never told you that you're the one I was living for?"
That was the real kicker.
How come you didn't put that one out? Or
I don't think that the song itself was like as good as the other songs, but I do really like that lyric. So maybe it'll be worth revisiting one day.
It's a great lyric. So let's talk about the night that you had the conversation. I understand it was on tour, but I'm curious, besides Sam, any lyrical clues you were getting, like what was the impetus to do it? Obviously it was kind of a long time coming, but what was there, an epiphany or?
There was, yeah. I just read a book called A Little Life, and it sort of follows, it has a storyline that I really, really related to, in the way that, like how the power of friendship and how beautiful that is, and how I had in my own life, I had come to terms with the fact that maybe I wasn't going to find someone. Like I don't think I was going to look for someone other than Tim, unless, maybe it was 10 years down the track or something. And I was really happy and perfectly like resigned to the fact in myself that I was really happy to just have like best friends who are like family, and that's, you know, that was going to nourish my soul and sort of be my completion um, on that side of things in my life. And then I read this book, and these friends go through such a similar sort of journey through their life, and I won't ruin the book if you haven't read it. But there was a relationship in that storyline that felt very, it was like a parallel to Tim's and mine. And you see them get together, they have their golden years. One of them dies basically. And I was thinking, like, how could I go on without, like, you know, if that happened before we got together, I would never forgive myself. So I have to just say how I feel, even if it ruins our friendship. Like I have to get it out there.
So how did you? What then?
That's pretty much exactly what I said to Tim. I said, I don't want this to ruin our friendship, but I'm in love with you and I want to be with you.
And Tim, were you surprised, or did you kind of see it coming?
I think I was probably taken aback a little bit. Like I think I did know that it was coming, but I guess like once it's like actually there happening, it's pretty huge. But I just said, like, I feel the same, like, let's be together basically. And yeah, and then we came out to our families like a week later when we were back in Australia, and then just started to tell our close friends, and then it kind of just like trickled out from there.
Wow. So is the song Crush about that conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it's yeah, you can tell what the songs are about. What's interesting about that song, and actually I would say Hearts and Halves as well, is there's like guilt in the songs, like feeling bad that, like, can you tell me, like, you know, like there's a line in Hearts and Halves about hating yourself, and there's like feeling like sad and crushed. Can you tell me a little bit about where that comes, if I'm reading that right?
Yeah, I feel like I was very much the reason that it took so long. I think I had a lot more fear around what people would think of me and what my life was going to be like once people found out that I was queer or whatever. I feel like if I had have been ready earlier, like you probably would have been ready to just like go for it. and I think like even now, like when I look back on those years and just think about like how much I wouldn't change anything, because I know that it's all like played out exactly as it was meant to bring us to where we are now. But there are definitely times when I look back and just realize like how much pain my fear like of what would happen caused for both of us. But like I feel like I was in control of I feel like my fear was sort of the thing that was holding us both back.
Except in those years, like I was perfectly happy as well. Like I was so at peace with just how things were, and I was so happy with that. And I came to a realization at some point, I wish I could sort of pinpoint when, where I realized that like my journey at that time is that I had to love myself like on my own first. And I don't think anything could have happened without reaching that first. Absolutely. And that sort of played into it taking some time.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, most people don't end up with the person that they dated when they were in high school, when they were 17. So it's maybe in some ways it's good that it took so long to get together when you were like in your mid-20s and like a little more mature, don't you think?
Yeah, I think definitely.
Yeah, I wouldn't change a thing about it.
So tell me about the significance of the club where Hearts and Halves video was shot. I understand that has some kind of personal history for you guys.
Yeah, so that club is called The Beat, and I think it's like the oldest gay club in Brisbane. And we used to go there. I had a fake ID when I was 17 and Sam had turned 18, and we would go there. And we like nobody there like knew who we were, and we didn't really have any other friends, and so it felt like we could just go there and like be ourselves and like make out and do whatever we wanted to do, and it felt like really safe. So it was pretty incredible going back there and shooting the music video for Hearts and Halves in that same space. Is very cool.
Very cool. And then I have other questions about certain videos or songs, but am I correct that the Oh Lord video is like the first music video? Like you pretty much, you paw each other and make out in a lot of your videos. It's kind of like your brand now. Like I don't like at least 5, but like probably more. But like, was that the first one where you kind of like really made a very, putting it out there kind of video? Am I right?
Yeah, that was the first music video that we made since we came out and got together. And I feel like with that song and it was kind of, I wrote that song about when we had first gotten together, and I was so used to things not really going how I wanted them to, or like a feeling of when something good happened, like something was going to take it away or something. And that was sort of the feeling that I had when it felt like everything was too good to be true. And I wrote that song, and then it kind of, because of the lyrics, like, oh Lord, don't turn your back on me, it kind of sounds like it could be religious, which it like very much isn't. And so I think making sure that the visual was like very queer and like made it very obvious, like kind of like where we stood, and painting the right picture around that song was like really important. So yeah, that's still one of my favorite Cub Sport music videos.
It's a great video. Am I right? I think you told me this when you were on my radio show, Tim, that the proposal came in the middle of that the shoot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was originally going to be one day of shooting, and then I think we got to the end of the day and we wanted to do more, so we booked another day, like the same day the following week perhaps, and it happened between those dates. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So was there something about, because it's my understanding that it was kind of an impromptu proposal, was there something about doing that video that kind of put you in the mindset to want to ask now?
I think it was just everything. It sort of felt like we were finally at this point where we were creating stuff that was so, like, we probably couldn't have imagined even a year prior that we would be doing something so openly queer, that not only sounded different but looked completely different. And we were just sort of stepping into this, like stepping into our skin for the first time in like 25 years. And it kind of felt like everything was just sort of pointing to this one thing, and it just felt right that night. That's
so cool. So yeah, after that, it seems the floodgates open, because like I said, in the majority of your music videos since then, you're like in the shower or, pawing at each other. I think it's awesome. Was that scary to do at first? I mean, it seems like you spent I guess what I'm trying to say is, it seems like you guys spent much of your life being very scared, but once you stopped being scared, you were like, like, let's just really go for it. Like, is that how you were feeling? Like, let's just go the other extreme?
Yeah. I think we realized the strength that there is in like being yourself. And while it was still scary to share, because I don't know, I remember Dad saying when he saw it that he was like a bit shocked by it, but that he really liked it.
Which one was he shocked by?
About Oh Lord.
Oh, okay.
And we've taken it so much further since then.
Yeah. Has he seen the Air video?
I don't know. I think Mum turned Air off partway, and I was like, that's good. You don't need to see it.
But your families are, it seems like they're very cool with it now, even though you came from conservative backgrounds, right? How did they take it when you first came out to them?
Yeah. They were pretty good. I feel like it's like very normal for there to be a bit of an adjustment period, and there was, but it was literally like 1 or 2 days. I remember after I came out to my parents, like later that day, Dad was like, "Oh, we'll invite Sam to family dinner that's happening on Monday night." It was like 2 days later. I was like, okay, like I couldn't really hope for like a faster change or whatever. Like it was really, really lovely.
Have they told you a lot of parents of LGBTQ plus kids will say that they kind of knew all along, if they didn't talk about it or they were, putting their heads in the sand about it. Like, a lot of parents will say, "Oh yeah, we knew," or "We suspected," or "It wasn't a surprise," or whatever. Have you ever had any conversations with your parents about that, where they sort of like kind of knew deep down that you guys were queer?
I brought it up with my parents thinking that, because I did like musical theater, dance, like I was pretty openly camp my whole time. I even got told in year 6 that I was playing the character of Elton John in a school play too camp. They told me to rein it back. So I said something that alluded to the fact that, like, surely you knew. And I don't know if they were just in denial or not, but apparently they didn't. Apparently they didn't think it at all.
Really?
Yeah, that was the most surprising part for me.
Wow. So were you surprised by the fact that they were like, were you thinking it was going to be the other extreme, that they were going to like disown you or whatever?
No, I was pretty comfortable. I sort of reached a point like around that time that I realized I wasn't looking for someone's approval. Like I was perfectly happy. I knew they would be supportive and loving. But I also wasn't like concerned if it was gonna, take a while or whatever. And luckily it didn't. It was just a really great experience all around.
Awesome. I know I don't know what kind of religious backgrounds you came from. How were you guys raised specifically?
Pentecostal Christian.
Oh. I'm curious if, like, in some of your lyrics or imagery or song titles or whatever, there's a lot of kind of heaven imagery, like mentions of angels. Obviously the most recent album's called Like Nirvana. Like, what's the significance of kind of making those kind of references a lot?
I feel like it's kind of just something that I feel a connection to. I think after I kind of finished school and stopped going to church and felt more comfortable like finding an identity outside of that whole thing, I like really ran hard in the opposite direction and was like a hard atheist or whatever. And then I feel like over the last few years I've kind of felt like more of a connection to the universe and kind of between all living things. And I'm like quite drawn to like the imagery and concept of like angels and I don't know, it's kind of just something that I'm drawn to and intrigued by, and it just feels like genuine and right, like when I use those things now. And it kind of feels like I'm reclaiming like a bunch of the things that felt like they were harming me when I was younger, and now it feels like I feel like supported by it in a way.
That's great. Did you guys go to Christian school? I did see the Instagram today with like the cutest picture ever. I can't believe that picture exists. Like, how old are you in that picture? It's so friggin' cute.
Maybe 14.
Yeah.
I might have been 15.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Did you have crushes on each other then? Because you're both smiling really super hard in the picture. It's very cute.
I think I had a crush on Sam from when I was about 15. So I think I might have been like, and that was in the development stages of my crush, maybe.
I don't think I had a crush, but I really wanted to be Tim's friend. We were sort of in kind of different friendship circles, and I really just wanted to be friends with Tim.
Do you remember when you first met?
Yeah.
We were 12.
Aww.
So Sam came to our school, which was a Christian school. It was attached to the church that I went to. And it was like all very churchy.
As
but
schools are, yes.
Yeah.
But on one of the first weekends after Sam had come to the school,
Which was in year 8.
We were both at the like local mall with like different friends, and we remember like really clearly seeing each other across this juice bar. And it's so bizarre because it's like such a clear memory, and I can almost see Sam standing there like almost with like, it was almost like he had like a spotlight on you, like this glowing light. And it kind of like makes sense now, like why the first time that we actually like really noticed each other was like such a moment. But yeah.
Were you with Zach?
Yeah.
Tim was with, so I was there with some of my primary school friends because I just left the school I went to for elementary school and just started this new school. And Tim was at the mall with Zach, who did the artwork for the album. So it's like a true full circle thing, like 17 years later.
That's so cool. When did you, Sam, start to realize you had a crush? It seems like it maybe was a little bit later than Tim, or do you have a memory of when you were like, oh, I actually really like him or whatever?
At the end of year 12, so I would have been 17. Oh yeah, you would have just turned 17, was when I really started to have a crush on Tim.
Is that when you sent him the text that's mentioned in the Party Pill song? Mm-hmm. Is that a real thing?
Yeah.
Sure is. It's just around the corner from you.
Is it true, Tim, that like Sam's the first guy you kissed? Because it says it in that song. I'm taking that song quite literally. Like it seems very like just raw. So.
Yep, Sam was my first like proper kiss.
Wow. Do you remember where it was or when? I like all the stories. Are very cute.
It was at my parents' place. At the end of year 12, like in those summer holidays, in like the spare bedroom there.
Wow, very nice. Who first? Who went in for the kiss first? Or was it just like sort of mutual?
It was kind of mutual, but I think it might have been you, because you knew how to kiss.
When you posted the thing on Instagram today, which is why I knew, I've mentioned that a couple of times, like, I was going through the pictures and they were sort of chronological. Did you go to prom together? Or there's like a formal photo?
Yeah, that was our prom, our formal, but we didn't go together.
I wish, I wanted to.
Oh yeah.
But it would have been.
No, I went with Jess, one of the school captains.
Oh, okay. But it looked like you were together in the photo. It looked like one of those like proper, prom as we call it here in America. Well, jumping forward to the present time, speaking of raw lyrics, obviously Confessions off like Nirvana is like super raw and very different actually to a lot of the stuff you've done before. Can you tell me a little bit about what and Confessions sort of has Catholic sort of a religious tone to it. Like, what's that song? What inspired that?
It was kind of I wrote that at the end of last year when I feel like I was kind of bordering on burnout. Like we had just been going so hard and like touring nonstop for ages by that point. And I think I was just feeling pretty heavy, and I think that there was a lot kind of in my subconscious that was weighing me down. And I think that writing and recording that song, like it was very much a stream of consciousness where I was just like holding the mic, singing whatever came into my head. And after writing it and listening back, it just felt like such a massive like purging of this like heaviness. And it was like I just felt like exhilarated by basically I felt like I had like set myself free all over again. And that's kind of like what the feeling was. And I feel like when you come out, it feels so like good and different on the other side. But then I think you kind of start to realize that it isn't like becoming happy and free isn't as simple as just like telling the world like who you love. Like I feel like that there are like always things to like be coming out about kind of. And yeah, I felt like through writing that song, it felt like kind of like throwing like shackles off me. And then that's sort of what the music video has. It like starts with me like with all these chains on me, and then I'm like throwing them all off, and that's like basically what that song felt like.
Well, it's a good look. I mean, that's another thing that's interesting, because it seems like visually, like with your fashion and the videos, like the evolution has been concurrent with like your inner. I mean, you know, if you look at photos even from like 3 years ago, you are not wearing the things you're wearing now. The amazing. So, can you tell me a little bit about like the evolution of your visuals? You know, the videos, the fashion, and how that sort of kind of mirrors what's going on internally.
I feel like everything, like the Cub Sport creative vision is basically just me expressing my innermost self. And that's sort of the well that I draw on for like the music and the visuals. And I think it's just about following a gut feeling and doing what makes me feel like excited, and I guess like being the artist that I want to like watch or listen to or like discover myself. So yeah, I mean there's rarely ever like a goal of like this is what I want to aim for. It's more about like looking within and figuring out like how best to, I guess, like, yeah, marry up like the music with visuals that kind of frame it in the right way and help tell the story.
I'm wondering if the evolution, the personal evolution that you two have been going for, is that why you've been so crazily prolific? Because, like, you know, it's been what, 4 years since the first album, right? First album came out in you've done like 4 albums in 4 years, plus other EP or you know, one-off songs here or there, and it's like it takes some other bands like 10 or 12 years to release 4 albums, you know, and each of the albums is quite different. So like, I guess I'm wondering, you know, why you have that pace. It seems like you're putting out, you know, something every few months.
Mm. I think that creating is a really important part of like how I process my life and understand what I'm feeling and experiencing. And it feels like the last 4 years have almost been happening in like double time. Like so much has happened in such a short time, and so many huge changes. And there's been so much to process, and often like before there's even time to really like get up to speed and process what's happened, something else is happening. And so I feel like writing and creating when I get a chance to is like, it's such an important part of me kind of staying in touch with myself and understanding the whole experience. So I think it's kind of, it's like the more we've been doing, the more I've had to write. And yeah, and it's kind of, there's always just been this like inner drive and this like feeling of like knowing that like we have to like keep pushing basically. And now like with the way that this year has panned out, it kind of makes sense to us why we just felt like we needed to do all this touring over the last couple of years, because now we like literally can't. We were just saying yesterday, like reflecting on the whole journey and
Everything.
putting out like Nirvana and kind of how that album's been received and the way that it like fits in with the other albums and everything. And it kind of feels like for the first time basically since we started, like we can take like a deep breath and be like, we can like, it feels like we can kind of like chill a bit more now. Like I feel like it's the right time to kind of like let the like Nirvana wave kind of like roll in, like, and then I don't feel like I don't feel like I need to like tell like the next part of the story as urgently now or something. Like I'm still writing heaps. And now there's like over an album's worth of new music, but I feel
Just
like
an album's over an album. To you, that's slowing down, apparently.
but I feel like in terms of painting the picture of Cub Sport and like who we are and everything, it feels like Nirvana kind of like completes this like story that we've been telling, and I feel like I feel like really empowered and excited, but like I don't feel the need to like rush anything, or it kind of feels like this is the time to just like breathe and enjoy what we've built.
Feels like over the course of the last few years, we've been changing the course of the ship and everyone's perspective of us, and making people understand us the way we have always understood us, whereas we've grown to understand ourselves, and we've finally sort of angled the ship in the right direction, and sort of now we can just let it sort of sail this way.
Amazing. Well, I do want to ask, since like you were saying that the albums tell the story. I mean, I'm sure you've been asked this so many times, Sam, but like, how does you have so many songs written about you? Like most of the songs, or a lot of more than half at least. Like, I mean, I guess that must feel really good. But how does it feel? Like, is it ever weird, or?
I wouldn't say it's ever weird. It's immense. I don't know like what words really to use for it. Like it's incredible and it's beautiful, and each one is like a gift. And I just try and sort of leave them as their own, like beautiful, like they're a crystal or something that I can like look at and like love and get joy from. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a very hard question to answer. I do get asked it in most interviews. Like I love it. I guess that's all I can really say.
It's a good answer. Do you ever wonder like what might have happened if you hadn't had the conversation in 2016? Do you think you guys would have eventually gone together, like in your 40s, like you said, or, you know, do you ever wonder what might have happened if there hadn't been that turning point?
I actually don't. I've never gone down that line of thinking. I do think we would have gotten together, but when, I don't know. I guess we've made such a conscious decision over the last few years to like fiercely and only sort of follow our heart, and that was really the beginning of it around that period of time, doing it consciously at least. And I feel like if you're living that way, the right things that are meant for you are going to happen. So I feel like it would have just happened maybe at a different time.
Well, you're obviously doing something right. Couldn't have happened to two nicer guys. So congratulations on the album success. Congratulations on your anniversary.